of a healer is that of a customer service agent, optimistically starting out wanting to help people, only to become bitter veterans, sorting out others' mistakes and resisting the urge not to punch the next whining lala with expectations for you to fix stuff that is out of your control. With this grief, you are gifted fast waiting times and the satisfaction that you are the life force sustaining the party, and with this guide I am gonna help you kiss the boo-boos and get dem comms. Probably. As always, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and follow me on the Twitch and Twitters for all your techly needs. There, I said it, please release my family, you heartless bat. I am Tech, and this is my guide to being the best healer that you can possibly be. Probably. So to start things off, we need to get acquainted with our healers, because as of Endwalker, healers have now been split into two primary categories: pure healers and barrier healers. The pure healers, White Mage and Astrologian, dedicate everything to high potency heals and the ability to casually apply regens whenever the hell they want. The barrier healers, Scholar and Sage, on the other hand, are more invested in preventing damage, sacrificing some of that direct healing potency into a barrier. Yes, good, we're learning. So, they will still heal you, but instead of a, say, 9,000 HP heal, it will be a 4,000 HP heal with a barrier that has 5,000 health. Both sets of healers also have abilities or off-global cooldowns that allow them to perform the opposite set's functions to a lesser extent. White Mage and Astrologian can create barriers with Divine Benison and Celestial Intersection, while the Scholar and Sage can cast regens with the Whispering Dawn and Physis. This allows each healer to deal with the general strains of dungeons and can work well in tandem during 8-man content. For healing spells, we have 4 main categories: the single target spell for direct healing, the AoE spell for party-wide heals, the better versions of the above that should replace the prior ones the moment you unlock them, and then you have the big heal skis. Spells that heal extreme amounts of health in a pinch, which is great to have when a tank is critically low on health or a recently raised party member. All these spells carry across each healer in some way, shape or form, and while each individual healer will have more of their own personal healing options, these are the bread and buttery basics. Now, to be the best healer you can possibly be, you have got to be okay with dealing damage. I know there are a lot of healers that will scream to their blue in the face that healers heal and you don't pay my sub, like spoiled children who thought they had got the last of a certain action figure, only to find out that their gran had got their cousin the exact same one. But dealing damage shortens the fight, meaning less need to actually heal in the first place, and more praise overall. As the healer, you have got to get them good feels in every chance you can. Now, to do that, the healers have 4 main categories of damage. Similar to the healing spells, they all come with different names, shapes and effects, but they are used exactly the same way overall. Your single target is for bosses and lone mobs, your AoE is for mobs of 2 or higher, your dot is a damage over time spell that is instantly cast and usually used on bosses or mobs that you can just squeeze it in on. And then there's the big boomski. Each one of our healers has their own style of instant cast big hit attacks that add an extra bit of flavour to your damage. White Mage has Afflatus Misery, also known as Astrologians have the Earthly Star, the Sage has Phlegma, balls, and the Scholar has Ruin too, because the Summoner felt like having yet another makeover, so get shafted, you nerds. Now these things, not you, hit hard, and we can go into more detail on them in their own personal healer guides. But still, they are good spells to know. Okay, now I'm going to give a basic example of healer DPS during a dungeon run, and to be as beginner friendly as possible, we'll use the White Mage. Because if you wish to actually start the game as a healer, then White Mage would be the only one available until level 50, unless you were also leveling the DPS Arcanist on the side. So, we have a level 80 cap dungeon run. The tank wall to walls, and we are stuck to them like glue. Once the tank has everyone where they need to be, we pop Presence of Mind, which increases our spellcast speed, and cast Holy, using that spell's stun time as mitigation. Now on the second stun, which is usually about the third or fourth holy in, depending on your spammage, we cast regen and pop an OGCD like Asylum, which adds more regen to the party. And then we spam that holy until the mobs are no more. Rinse and repeat. It feels weird at first, but you get used to it. As for bosses, all you do is you start with your dot, then you spam single targets until we need to heal, mitigate, or dodge something, reapplying that dot every time it's about to drop off. That's it. Pretty straightforward. The other healers have their own ways of dealing with wall-to-wall pulls, so you just gotta get that feel for what you want to play. Now onto role abilities. Repose is a spell that puts the enemy to sleep for 30 seconds. It's able to buy your tank some time in very early dungeons where AoE attacks are not fully available to everyone, or if you are running solo and pulling too many enemies, it's good there. Otherwise, it's practically useless. If a sleeping enemy is hit, the effect drops off instantly, and if any party member has an AoE attack, the sleep will be knocked off before you can even tee up the next enemy. Sooner is a lot more useful though. As with previous Final Fantasies, it is able to remove negative status effects, aka debuffs, just as long as they have this little blue bar on top. Personally, I think it's one of the most useful role actions in the game, as statuses like Poison can do a number on tanks if it's stacked, and Slow or Heavy can ruin a DPS's day. Its only downfall is it only takes one status off per use. So if there was something like 3 status ailments all on one player, you would have to cast Asuna 3 times on the exact same player to get them all off. Swift Cast is an ability that really has some weight for the healers. It makes the next spellcast you do instant. This can be good for that initial holy for the white mages during that wall-to-wall pull, but the most important use of it is an instant res. So all healers and some DPS have their own personal life spell that brings a teammate back from the brink of death. This can be used as many times as you like so long as you have the MP for it, but it costs a lot of MP and it takes so long to cast that the boss has enough time to go make a brew, watch Match of the Day, come back and still have enough time to take you out with his ultimate attack before you even get that tank back up. Unless you have Swift Cast. Then it's instant, and trust me, that is power. Lucid Dreaming is a simple MP regen. So when you're running below roughly 8000 MP, being the optimal number, pop Lucid Dreaming and take that sting off your MP consumption. Surecast grants you immunity to knockbacks and pulls while also adding some poise to your bad self. Normally if an attack hits you hard enough, your spell can be interrupted mid-cast. But with Surecast you gain some Dark Souls Giant Dad well what is it legend never dies level of poise that you can power up your base cannon and fire with ease. And finally we have Rescue, the double-edged sword. On the one hand it allows you to harness your inner scorpion and have your teammates get over here, saving them from potential death, and on the other hand it's an evil tool that allows trolls to make their teammates get over here to their potential deaths. Please don't be this guy. However, if you suspect someone on your team of being a pulley prat, you can use Arm's Length and Surecast to negate it. I don't really like to give out that nugget of information because it can cause good healers to have problems trying to save DPS from bad AoEs. That being said, if you are a DPS that is inside an AoE and decides to use Arm's Length to stop the rescue, you probably deserve the death you are about to be given. Okay, so we know our fundamentals. Let's get into our mindset. First things first, check your party comp. Knowing what it consists of will always help you plan your run. Tanks like Warrior are going to make your life a hell of a lot easier because of their great sustain, while tanks like Dark Knight with their lack of sustain may need you to be a little more on your toes. I should know, I am one. Now I'm going to retcon some advice I gave in the tank guide. As going through some research, there are split decisions in the healer community about this debate. So while as a tank I would say don't regen in the middle of wall-to-wall pull, if you have a knack for hugging the tank throughout the run, then regen is probably fine. My idea as a primary tank main is even if you are next to me, you aren't in my exact position and those beelining mobs could still be an issue. But yes, if you are stuck to me like glue so that they are all in my attack, then that regen is welcome. Also from personal experience, keep an eye out for the Dark Knight's Living Dead ability. Ideally, they should have a macro to let you know when it's being used, but yeah, that's not always the case. Can't really help you with it because the move itself sucks. I'll say if the move is used and you've been made aware of the situation, keep that offense up for about 5 seconds and use your big heal ski like Benediction, Lustrate, etc. to reach the heal check. Okay? Okay. Next is slide casting. This is more of a caster thing in general, but definitely learn this. I won't go into extreme details, but in most cases, if you move while casting, you will interrupt your attack, negating all that progress you had. Now this can be useful for a quick change from offensive spell to healing if you need it, but if you've started casting and an AoE marks over you, then dropping it is going to be a given, unless we slide cast. So when you are casting a spell, there is a fine spot near the end of your cast where the spell is registered before the bar is full. This is to do with wibbly wobbly timey-wimey server development stuff. But yes, this fine spot allows you to move and cast at the same time, meaning you can dodge those AoEs a lot quicker than you originally thought and get into better positions overall. To get this down is pretty simple as well. Open up the emote menu, drag the first emote you see with your mouse, or if you are on controller, the virtual mouse with the default L1 R3, and place it into a hotbar slot. Once that is done, cast your heal. The emote will grey out like the rest of your actions, but will become accessible at the time your spell is registered, and that will be your indication of when you can move. This tiny little thing will up your game plan as both a healer and a casting DPS. So yeah, all casters, learn this. Okay, big one now. GCD heals are a last resort late game. For every Solace, Adlo or Eucrasian diagnosis you use, that is damage you've just thrown away. You have enough OGCD abilities to ensure that the tank stays alive. Hell, in 83 level dungeons and higher, they may not even need that much. So you have this freedom to cast offensive spells until that heal is needed, and you pop an OGCD heal to keep the tank in a good spot for their own sustain to keep them in it. So yeah, last resort. Now I said this in the tank guide and I'll say it again here. The healer probably has the most difficult task out of the party. When I say they're the party's life force, I mean it in a literal sense. If the healer dies early on and no one can raise them, it's a wipe. Sure, most tanks have good self-sustain now, and they're more than likely going to see a low health boss to the clear. But it's just prolonging the inevitable otherwise. Unless you're a level 90 warrior, then it doesn't matter. But as the healer, you don't need to take on everyone else's responsibility. Remember, you don't need everyone at full health all the time. You just don't need them to die. And while it is your job to keep them alive, it's not always within your power. If a DPS stands in between a Venn diagram of AoEs, you can try and rescue them, and I will say if you have it, use it. But really, all you can do is mitigate and hope they don't die. It ain't your fault that they stayed in there. It's their job to avoid that damage. Any damage to you or the DPS that doesn't come from a raid-wide attack is a mistake that you fix. And then it's their job to make sure that that mistake doesn't happen again. Keep all that in mind, and you'll be just fine. And if you want to be the best viewer you can possibly be, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, smash the bell thingy, and follow me on the Twitch and Twitters for more Techno-Odin-y goodness. And finally, stay tuned as we unleash the unsung heroes of 14, the DPS. But until that day, this has been Techno-Odin. Stay safe, claim skulls, smash bosses, and take care.